all around us in this race car, we have information. We got data here, we have data here, we have data information here. Information is so important that the FDA actually made them put information about the food you eat on every single package. So if it's that important to us, why don't you have it in your street car? What's up, YouTube? Nate Vincent here with our Project Mark 7 GTI. We're going to be installing a P3 gauge system into this car. We're really excited to start getting going on some engine mods, but we want to make sure we have a gauge here so we can keep an eye on the engine vitals before making any changes to the engine. All right, so included with the P3 gauge system is the P3 gauge itself, which is going to go into the vent. You have a wiring harness, really simple. Basically, you need to know you have our OBD port. We have our headlight dimmer. This allows it to brighten and dim with the headlights. And then we have the plug that plugs into the included module. That's really the entirety of the wiring that needs to be done. They give you some extras if you want to run some analog sensors. We're not going to do that. We don't need to do that. Also included in it is this great little pamphlet that shows you very simply exactly how everything goes together. First step is to remove the headlight switch. Push and rotate right, and it should pop right out. We're going to unplug that. Set this aside. Next, we're going to take our T20 Torx and we're going to take the Torx screw out from this headlight mount. Now we're going to unplug the dimmer and set the tray aside. So the next step is we're going to remove this trim panel here. You can use a trim removal tool, or if you're very careful, you can just use a flathead screwdriver. Set this aside. Now we have access. We can push on the back and get our fingers under this trim. And remove the entire thing right there. All right, the next step, now we have the vent out, is we're going to remove this outer trim. To do so, you basically undo the clips on the back side and separate it. You shouldn't need a screwdriver, but some of these bottom ones are a little tricky to get to. There you go. So now to install the gauge, which is going to sit right in the top portion, we're going to undo these little clips here and pull this portion of the vent off. Carefully put a screwdriver under there and you can just pop it free. Once you have it free on one side, you can just pull it out from the other side. Now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the two top slats, and then you can see these pins will replace where the slats go. So to do so, we're just going to separate this very carefully and gently. And we pull one slot out. Now we can take our P3 gauge and install in the two slot holes over here. So here's a properly installed P3 gauge and a GTI vent. Now we're going to take this slat vent assembly and install it in the major vent assembly. First, we need to take the wire, and we're going to run it through and make sure that it can pass through. And what we want to do is, if you can see how that slot closes? We want to have the wire come out this portion right here so the slot can close to about 95% its full closure. That will allow you to control your temperature through your vents with allowing the wire to pass through. So passing through the far left, and again through the far left, and then making sure we have no twists in the wire. And now we're going to reinstall this. One thing you need to make sure is this little center clip here is aligned with the center clip on the right to left slots. So you'll see this portion here needs to surround that bar right there. So as I install this, now I have one side clipped in. I need to make sure this top piece sits under, like so, and now the bottom can pop in. And then I suggest you just test the vent function, make sure that the door closes on the back. So that's why the wire is going to sit over on the left side, so the door can close. We're also going to make sure that we have a little bit of up and down. You're going to lose a little bit because of the gauge. And then you also want to make sure that when you move this bar right and left, that the slats move with it. So the last step here is we're going to reinstall the front fascia. That's pretty simple. Basically what we're going to do is just position it and snap it on. Kind of verify that all the snaps are engaged, and we're ready to reinstall. All right, so now we're going to install the assembly. The first step is to take the wire, feed it through the bottom left corner of the vent, and pull it through, making sure that's not twisting. Now install the gauge. Push on the four corners. Make sure you're all snapped in. All right, to keep this installed nice and tidy, we're going to be using some zip ties and some Velcro tape to secure the module right here. First thing we want to do is take the module, and we're going to measure out our Velcro tape, and we're going to cut it. This tape is not included in the kit. So now when we install it, we're going to put this plug upwards and keep this one downwards, because this is going to go down to the OBD2 port underneath. This is going to come from the vent and the gauge itself right here. So we're going to install this right here on an angle. Now to keep to our theme of tidy, we're going to take this and we're going to zip tie this up right here and plug it in. And now plug it into the module. Now we're going to install this wiring harness. So pretty simple. Let's get it unwrapped first. The two plugs that matter on this harness are one, the one that goes into the OBD port, or the diagnostic port here, and two, the one that plugs into the bottom of this module. So what we want to do is we're going to start here and we're going to feed this diagnostic port down. Best way to do that is to loosen up a couple of the T20 Torx here and just pull this bottom piece out so we can slide it through. It's over there. So now we're going to take the third and last screw that needs to be removed here, T20, and that allows this to flex down, and we're going to feed the wire right through. So starting here where the module is, we take our OBD2 port, pull this away, and right underneath this brace is a little pass-through. We're just going to let it pass right through there. So now you can see the wire can pass, but this big plug just needs a little bit of extra room. At this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the diag cover off, and we're going to plug in the diagnostic. So now that is plugged in to the OBD port. I'm going to straighten this wire out so there's no folds and nothing your foot can catch. And we're up. All right, now that we have the rough location figured out for our module, and we have the wiring brought up here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to coil this wire up and zip tie it so I live here, and then we're going to plug it into the module. And that will give me enough room to plug it in and also keep the wires out of the way. Now, placing this here, we can plug into the main module, tighten the connectors, take this wire, and you can move this to inside. Now everything is nice, locked in place. We're not going to get any vibrations, everything's secure. We're going to take this wire, we're going to do this later on a different video, but you can see right now I'm just going to coil this up and I'm going to place it right inside here. So the next step, we're going to be putting the Torx screws in to keep this panel secure. 1 T20, 2 T20, and 3 T20. Now for the luggage tray, we're going to hook these bottoms on. You see they have to hook all the way in, and then we can force it up. So we hooked left side, hooked the right side, and now we're going in. Done. Now we're going to take the headlight surround. We want to make sure this red plug is accessible, so when we put the headlight switch in, we can plug it in. And we're going to plug the dimmer, which is the black one, in. So the black one is plugged in. Red one pops through the center while pushing the trim panel Now we have another Torx we need to tighten right there. T20. And tighten that down. Now our headlight switch, we plug it in. And we slide it in. Now there's a receiving slot here. Make sure that aligns with this right here. In, and we can recess back to 0 or lights off, and that switch is installed. All right, moment of truth. We're gonna start the car up now. We're gonna leave this exposed just so we can check it out, and we're gonna see what this gauge looks like. So turning the car to run. You can see right now, we're looking at exhaust temperatures, I'm assuming. We're gonna scroll, hitting the button on the right. So here's coolant temperatures, air intake temperature, ignition timing. This is exhaust temperature. I'm sorry, the first one was coolant temperature. Exhaust temperature, throttle position, RPM, speed, 0 to 60 timer, battery voltage, air fuel ratio. This is a really handy one for tuning, and boost pressure, obviously vacuum. All right, so final step. Now we know this functions properly. We're going to install this. Like I said, come back if you want to see us wire this in so we get the full dimming effect on this gauge, but for right now, we're just going to install this cover and we're going to move forward. Get it right so this curve lines up here. I like to get the first clip seated, and then the top clip, and then pop, pop, pop. Done. Look at that. So 6 seconds, 0 to 60. Not bad. All right, everyone, I hope you found that really helpful. That was a very simple install. You get a lot of great information from the P3 gauges. Definitely something I would do to my personal car. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, leave a comment below. Thanks a lot. Let's go do a burnout.